Turn that 62 to 125, 125 to a 250, 250 to a half a man. Ain't nothing nobody can do with me. Now who with me? Dominoes.
Oh, hey guys. Hey, look, I'm really sorry about that. I didn't even know the camera was rolling. I mean, goodness, it's embarrassing. Hey, look, not all is lost. My name is Dezmon Landers, your startup advisor and partner in entrepreneurship. I was listening to my man Jay-Z because he gave us a great segue into the title of today's video, which is how to flip money. Jay-Z was just saying that he took 62 and turned it into 125, then turned it into 250, then turned it into 500. And now there's nothing that anybody can do with him. Now, many of you may be thinking that, hey, this is, from the hip hop world or, from a place like that in terms of how to flip money, right? But I wanted to create this video for a couple reasons. Number one, for the people that have heard that term before but didn't know what it means, I want to explain it to you so you know what it means. Number two, though, I want to show that there's a greater relation of that term and the use of that term to the business and the entrepreneurial world, right? When people talk about they are flipping money, all they're saying is I want to put a little amount of money into the marketplace with the hopes of a greater return. For all my corporate folk out there, all of that essentially is called an ROI, right? You put an investment into the marketplace, whether it's a corporation that's expanding locally, nationally, or internationally, whether you own it or you're a part of it, and you're hoping to get a greater return back. I had heard this term for many, many years, and I was like, okay, flipping money. I don't really understand what that means, but I've heard people in real estate say it. I've heard people in business say it. I've heard rap artists say it, right? And it's like, okay, what specifically does that mean, and how can I do that in a positive way, right? So as I looked and did a little bit more investigation into how to flip money, what I realized is there's 7 universal steps that you can actually take to flip money. So let's get right into it. Number one is to identify a need or a want in the marketplace. A need is something that someone has to have regardless of how they feel about it. They gotta have it, right? They gotta have shelter. They gotta have a roof over their head, at least at this day and age. And a want is something that someone chooses to buy, purchase, be a part of, have an affinity for, right? So the difference between a need and a want is the choice. A need, I'm not making a choice. I gotta have it. A want, I'm making a choice to participate or to be a part of it. Number two, you've got to create a product or service that is actually going to eliminate the need or facilitate the want. Here's what I mean by that. If I have a need to get to the other side of the country in 5 hours and it's 100 years ago, right? I got a big problem because the only thing that's available to me at that time is a horse and a buggy and maybe a Model T from Ford, right? And that is exactly why the airline industry was created, because what people have a need for is to get more of their time back and do more of their time doing business or meeting with family that lives a long way away versus having to spend 3, 4, 5 days or weeks on the road the way they did 100 years ago. So that's an example of creating a product or service that fills a need. Now on the want side, these are things that people want to do but they don't necessarily have to do. So look at ice cream, for example. 2 nights ago, I really feel guilty about this. I ate like a quarter-gallon of ice cream right before I went to bed. I mean, you talk about everything that's anti-losing weight and getting back in shape. Well, I did it. Here's why I did it though, because I like the taste of the ice cream and the sugar in my mouth, right? I don't really know what it does other than maybe deteriorate. I hate to use that term, but that's what it does. It doesn't do anything good for your body primarily other than add a lot of sugar to you, but it's something that I wanted to do because I like the taste. I like the texture of it right in my mouth. So you've got to create a product or a service that eliminates the need or facilitates the wants. By the way, ice cream is a multi-billion-dollar business, as you would have already guessed. So just because something's not a need doesn't mean that it will not sell. Number 3 is you've got to add a profit margin into your price, right? So when you're pricing your product or service, you want to give it a price, but you want to make sure that that price factors in your actual cost and there's a margin in there, right? If you buy something here and you sell it here, you've got to have a margin. The margin is actually where the actual flip is made. So that's a big deal. And actually that's the most important part about flipping money is step number 3, add a profit margin into the price. Number 4 is you've got to find buyers, right? You cannot flip money if you have no one to give you more money than you invested, right? So you've got to find buyers. This goes back into marketing, right? I'm not saying sell, I'm saying find. Marketing is the identification of who could buy from you. And that's what I mean by finding. Run some market research, understand who has that product, that problem, that need or that want. And probably you should have done this in the very beginning, right? But find out who you could potentially sell to. Number 5, exchange your product for money. I know this sounds ridiculous and I know this sounds so elementary, but ask people for money. People have a big issue with that. If you have something that has any level of value at all, right, then give it to the person and ask them to give you money in return. See, money has no intrinsic value. Look up the term. Intrinsic value means something that has a natural value. Well, money doesn't. It's just paper. If it sits in a bank account, it's not going to do anything by itself. It's just a means of exchange. So don't be scared to actually ask people for money, because if you don't ask them for money, you won't be able to flip money and take a small amount and turn it into a large amount. Number 6, reinvest the profits to buy more product, right? You can't just flip once, right? You want to make sure your market's big enough to where you can keep flipping. Now, when I say flip, this is not a derogatory term. This is the same thing that corporations do, same thing that entrepreneurs do, same thing that nonprofit organizations do to grow, same thing that countries do to grow. You've got to be able to finance your operations. And unless you flip, unless you reinvest and get a return and reinvest and get a return, you're not going to be able to grow. Point blank and simple. It's almost like saying, you know, your little son or daughter is going to grow to be 5 or 6 feet tall without eating food, right? You're going out to get it for them, to put it back in their body so they can grow, which is the return, right? And you put it back into the marketplace, not them into the marketplace, obviously, but you put more work into the marketplace to make more money to feed your family and your children. They grow, etc. It's just this big loop. You get what I'm talking about. Anyway, number 7, find more buyers. That is critical, right? So once you flip the first time, on the second go round, you get your products or your services and you reinvest into them, then go out and find a bigger, larger pool of buyers, right? Because you won't be able to grow if you only are selling to the same people that you sold to in the first round, unless you have a monthly subscription product or something like that. But you get what I'm saying, right? Make it real simple. That's what you got to do. Number 8, you got to rinse, wash, and repeat. If you don't rinse, wash, and repeat that exact process, you will never flip money. You will never take $1 and turn it into 10 or to 100 or 5,000. And that's the goal in life for many people. It's not that you love money, but it's the fact that you like the security and the things that money can buy, not just for you, but also for your family. If you're a giver, you know, you can give love and affection and all those things. But unfortunately, we live in a place that's a capitalism based society. So at some point, the love and the emotion is going to run out, and you're going to have to go pay that mortgage to make sure your kids can be in the house. You know, whatever it is, you know, you want to do those steps. So let's repeat them again. Number 1, you want to identify a need or a want. Number 2, you want to create a product or a service that's eliminating the need or enabling the want. Number 3, you want to add a profit margin to your price. Number 4, you want to find buyers. Number 5, you want to exchange your product for money. Number 6, you want to reinvest the profits to buy more product. And number 7, you want to find more buyers. My name is Dezmon Landers, your startup advisor and partner in entrepreneurship, and this is how to flip money. Have a good night.